Meanwhile, Virginia Senate hopeful George Allen stopped by our studios today. He talked about the upcoming election and his race against Democrat Tim Kaine. CBS 19's Dan Schutte.
Well, Mr. Allen, thanks for joining us today. Just to start out with, the polls have Tim Kaine up by almost 5 points at this point. How do you catch him with less than a month to go?
Well, we catch them with good ideas, and I think people expect folks to go to Washington and get things done, and people that I hear from, and Susan does as well, care about jobs in this economy. They want to stop these devastating defense cuts, which Tim Kaine has supported, that sequester bill, which I opposed, and I do think anybody who uses electricity, drives a car, thinks health care decisions ought to be made by doctors and patients rather than panels of bureaucrats in Washington will be on our side.
Now, you mentioned the sequestration, the automatic budget cuts that came in as part of the debt ceiling deal. What do you do instead of that?
What you do instead of is show leadership and make decisions. The Senate hasn't passed anything. They haven't passed a budget in 3.5 years. And what needs to be done is we need to stop the cuts. The House passed something in May that's a start. I think one of the ways to get more revenues in, by the way, is unleashing our American energy resources from our coal fields to our coast. And on day one, I'd introduce a bill to allow us in Virginia to produce oil and gas off our coast and then use the royalties for roads and transportation. Another thing that will save a lot of money is repeal and replace Obamacare. That's over $1 trillion of spending in the next 10 years, besides denying seniors access to quality health care.
And you mentioned trying to get things done, and people want to see Congress get things done. How do you reach across the aisle, especially after such a bitter and polarizing election so far?
Well, after the elections are over, the people have voted, and those of us who are elected have a responsibility to act, and there's an urgency for action. When I was governor, the Democrats controlled the legislature. We worked together to reduce taxes, make our communities safer, and reform welfare. I'm going to work with people on both sides of the aisle to get our economy going, creating jobs. If it's an energy issue, there's senators in West Virginia, Alaska, and Louisiana to work with. On other issues, you find people. And I did it when I was in the Senate before with senators from Oregon, from Massachusetts, from Maryland on specific issues. And that's what people want us to do, is find common ground, make decisions, bring us certainty so businesses can start hiring again.
And one last question. Virginia's certainly in play for the presidential race. Will the Virginia Senate race go as the president goes? Can you win the Senate seat if President Obama is reelected?
Well, I would hope Mitt Romney wins, and I hope that we win, of course, as well, and Robert Hurt and others. And so we're running on very similar issues. We're good friends. I'm going to work with whomever the president is, but if we have Mitt Romney in the White House, he'll be saying yes to Virginia from our coal fields to our coast and saying, yes, let's use Virginia's energy resources rather than what we're getting right now is no. And Mitt Romney and I both agree that raising taxes like Barack Obama and Tim Kaine proposed is not the right prescription for this fragile economy.
All right. George Allen, thank you so much for joining us.